Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game with me, MKT. Hey, I had a great day today. I had a really, really great day. I met someone virtually who I'd never in my life imagined I would speak to on planet Earth. But what a cracking day, personally. I hope anybody watching this is having as good a day as you can have in lockdown day 867,407. Anyway, just wanted to share that good news. Had a great day. On the other side of it, the Windies, what are they doing? What on earth are they doing? Absolutely shocking. We'll talk a bit about that. Stuart Broad, of course, taking his 500th wicket. Where does he belong in the pantheon of greats? Is he great? We'll get into that and a little bit more. And then Q&A. So if you've got questions, go ahead and send those in live, as the Australians might say, live, mate. One eye in Australia, live, mate. Great to have you with me. As I said, I've had a great day, good exercise. I went for a run today, did some exercise in the morning. Pretty much all good. Stuart Broad, good job, 500 sticks. West Indies, terrible job, the opposite of good job. And then Q&A coming up a little bit later. Let's get straight into it. Tonight it is just me, and then, of course, in my mind and brain, I will eventually, or every now and then, I get the voice of God, Dave LaRue, who's our director, producer extraordinaire, never comes on, but my God, does the man work his face off. He works his face off. Let's get into it for today, Dave. Well, 500 sticks. Stuart Broad. Congratulations to him. I mean, once again, I hate to be the bearer of bad or good news. Let me know. What do you think? Broad, world-class, legendary? Does 500 sticks put you in that conversation, regardless of what you think of the man? I mean, he does have 500 wickets. Because, in life, it's so easy sometimes to get obsessed with what you see versus what's actually going on. I'm sure we all know a couple where it looks like it's going well, but, you maybe stay over for one weekend or you go on a holiday with them and it turns out they're a couple from hell. So sometimes what you see and what's actually happening isn't the same thing. Sometimes it is. Some people are genuinely happy. Some people have boyfriends that are great, girlfriends that are great. These things happen. But in Stuart Broad's case, let's take a look. 500 sticks, congratulations. And of course, Sky Sports has now anointed him essentially Glenn McGrath or Mutta Muralidhar. In the eyes of England, this man is now unstoppable, the greatest to have ever lived. So I've decided I'm going to go through not all of the top 10, but those above Stuart Broad. And I've got a rule, right? If I have to think about it, you're not great. So I just want to start off with that. That's my rule always. So I'm a big NFL fan. If I have to debate, is he in the Hall of Fame? Is he not in the Hall of Fame? Don't put him in the Hall of Fame because everybody's getting in now. But in my book, you're either great or you're not. If you are great, there's no debate. If you're great, there's no debate, right? It is clear, black or white, yin or yang. There is no in between. So I want to all these bowlers and have a look. Is Stuart Broad the guy? Let's have a look at the guys above him. Dave, let's bring up that list and let's for our podcast audience, you'll have to go with me as I go. What I'll do is I'll go from the top. As as the great Tony Greig used to say, Mutta Muralidhar is at the very top. Mutta Muralidhar. 800 sticks, 133 games. Listen, Mutta, no matter what you think, 800 wickets is 800 wickets. Throwing or not, triple jointed elbow or not. That is insane. Right? My one criticism of Mutta is you basically bowled the whole innings for 2 innings every game. So it's essentially, I mean, he's the only world-class bowler, in my eyes, Sri Lanka have ever had. There's Chaminda Vaas. I mean, who else was there? Delhara Fernando. I mean, we're talking chopped liver here, really. Chaminda Vaas had, a year or two where you could say, okay, I can work with it. But Mutta, I've been watching cricket for 30 years. I don't think Sri Lanka have had another world-class option, which meant Mutta was taking 7 or 8 wickets a game. I mean, all you need to do is look at his best bowling match figures. Nobody else there has ever taken 15 wickets or more in innings. What does that tell you? Muta is basically bowling from the beginning, and he's bowling, 50 overs an innings? Come on. You're going to take 800 wickets. Not the greatest in my eyes, but the most wickets. The average is phenomenal. The strike rate is phenomenal. Muta Muralidharan. Stuart Broad, do you get into that conversation? Come on, guys. Shane Keith Warne. Now, I think Warne is the greatest bowler of all time. And I don't think it's close. Because the great thing about Shane Warne, he could defend and attack an end. And people always say this, is it's easier to win if you're in a better team. I've always disagreed with that. I mean, I've played sports when I was much younger, and I'm pretty sure I sound like that annoying drunk guy at a pub right now. But when I was younger, I played sport to a relatively high level. When you have to win, expectations are killer. When you have to win, expectations killer. It's much harder to be in a winning team than a losing team. Because whether you win or not, it's okay. There's no pressure. Shane Warne was under pressure for 15 years. Unbelievable pressure, by the way. And the pressure came from Alan Border, right? Even Mark Taylor. So let's even, Border, Taylor, Ponting. And a little bit of Clark. But really, those are the three. My God, all three have 10,000 test runs or more. And those were real hardcore captains. This wasn't cricket when there was hashtags and people were getting sensitive on the internet. This was a nasty era of cricket. Shane Warne was under the pump for 15 years. So for me, I don't want to get into Shane Warne as a conversation with Stuart Broad. Anil Kumble, I could probably put him in that department, right? I mean, look at Anil's strike rate. So Anil, another guy, India, for all the great things they've done, they haven't really produced a world-class bowler either in the last 30 years. You might say the Turbinator, but was Harbhajan world-class? Once again, you have to debate it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I love his Instagram game, by the way, if you haven't seen Harbhajan. But Anil Kumble, and you can see on that top 10 list, he's as good as they've ever produced. I don't love those numbers. I don't love that average, and I don't love that strike rate on Anil. 708 wickets. Once again, bowled probably both ends. Who else was there in the Indian team? Think about world class. Who could travel? So if they went to Australia, England, South Africa, who could bowl with Anil? No one. No real quality paceman. Ashish Nehra is Nehra the best they've had as a seamer in the last 20 years? So maybe Kumble, but geez, 600 wickets is a lot. Jimmy Anderson. Now, here's his comparison, because we've gotten to watch them both together. Look, your best bowler gets the first over. So immediately England are telling me Anderson's better. At this rate, Broad plays another 13 games. He'll probably take somewhere around the same wickets. So I'll let you have it either way. I mean, the averages are particularly mediocre, 26 and 27. So I'll let you have either way. I don't think Anderson's world-class either, to be honest with you. That's just a longevity price. 589 wickets. Glenn McGrath, I don't want to get into it. Stop it. Look at Glenn McGrath's average per wicket. That is insane to me. That is absolutely insane that for 21 runs, I'm guaranteed a wicket. It is mind-blowing. So he doesn't get to the McGrath conversation. And Courtney Walsh, anybody who thinks Stuart Broad should be spoken about on the same planet as Courtney Walsh, you need your head read, and then you need to be taken to Mars on Elon Musk's rocket ship. Because Courtney Walsh is one of the greatest to ever do it. Top 3 greatest fast bowlers for me to ever do this thing. And the numbers say it. Like, it's not even my opinion, right? Look at that average. 519. Courtney Walsh, 8 games less. He's taken 8 wickets more in a much, much more demanding situation. You can't be great and world-class and all of these things that they're saying about Stuart Broad when your numbers, so even on the numbers, you're mediocre. Look at that average. Look at the strike rate. What am I doing with that? For those who don't know, 56.7, 27.9 average. Don't love it. Don't love it. So Stuart Broad, for me, congratulations on 500 wickets. World-class too far. Good servant to the game, good servant to the English team. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'd love to know what people think. I've never rated Stuart Broad, but what he's done, and I think here's another skill. And I always say this, availability is the greatest ability. The ability to play, you get points for that. But then when we get into rarefied air, and we get into the pantheon greats, then I've got to be harsh on you. I don't grade on a curve. I don't grade on a curve, and I can't go great with the numbers I'm seeing there. Courtney Walsh has played how many games less? Is it 8 games less than the guy? Has 19 more wickets. What must I do about that? I can see that. And you know what? In fact, to show you what the bar for great is, just below him, Dale Steyn. So Dale Steyn has played, this is staggering, almost 50 games less. Almost 50 games less than Stuart Broad. Dale Steyn only has 60 wickets less. And to let you know, Dale Steyn's got the greatest strike rate in the world. Dale Steyn's getting you a wicket every 7 overs. If you don't think in 50 games, Dale Steyn, who's probably bowling, 20 overs an innings, 3 wickets a game, or 3 wickets an innings, guaranteed. If you don't think he's getting 500 wickets in 140 games, you're kidding me. He's getting 600 wickets in that time. And you can extrapolate that beauty of stats. So, Stuart Broad, congratulations. Love to know what people think, but there is no way I ever want to hear Stuart Broad mentioned as an all-time great. English great, hey, I'm not English. I'm not going to get involved in that. But world great, come on. There's a few people that aren't on that list who I would take long, way before Stuart Broad. He's unlikable, but he's a winner, folks. For the English, he's been a winner. The measure for the English is the Ashes. He's been incredible in 2 Ashes series now. And once again, availability is the greatest ability. So he gets a mark for that. He gets a mark for that. So before we go over to the Q&A, let's go to Vincent Tevet, who says, Dale Steyn maybe played 50 games less because of unavailability. What about it being the most important ability? Listen, fair enough, which is why I say Stuart Broad, I still give him the marks for that. I still give Broad. Availability is the greatest ability, and I'll never waver on that. So you get marks for that. But then when you get into that rarefied air conversation, we need to get real about it. Right? Is everyone smart? Everyone's smart until you get to Harvard. Right? You're smart at your high school. You may be smart at your local community university or whatever it may be, your Boston University, and not the real Boston University because smart kids get into there. But in South Africa, we have, I think, Boston College. You might be smart there at Damlin, at your family Bryce, and then you get to Harvard. And when you get to Harvard, we've got different criteria for measuring. So it's all good that you got to Harvard. Okay, now let's go. Everyone's an A student here. Have you always got A's? Have you got A pluses? Have you got 100% for mathematics, the sciences? That's what's happening at Harvard. He's now in Harvard. And when you get there is no room to hide. And I look at that average, and I look at that strike rate, and I look at how many games it's taken you to get there, and then I look at Courtney Walsh, who took 8 games less than you to get 19 more wickets. Stuart, what do I do about that? Because I can see that, right? So Stuart Broad, congratulations, 500 wickets, world-class, no chance. Folks, tonight it is just me. It is a Q&A. We'll have a few questions from the previous shows, of course. And if you've got any questions, we will make sure to put those up and answer them. Q&A coming up after this. Welcome back. Q&A. And we're going to do this thing. So, folks, 28th of July, huh? Who would have thought? August 2020. What a wild ride so far. What a wild ride so far. So, for the Q&A, we will always take questions. If you got questions, tweet them in at CC Sport, Cliff Central Sport. Otherwise, just send them in live if you're watching. And I will do my best to get through those. All right, Dave, let's go. What we got? Senzo Sitebe says, Mbulelo, you support such a rubbish teams. Real Madrid, Chelsea, Inter, all scum. So true. Great story about all of those. Real Madrid, 1996. If you let you know how old I am, 1996, the great Croatian team, by the way. My God, they were unbelievable. Sorry, 1998, that World Cup. Davor Šuker. That is the reason I support Real Madrid. I have loved Croatia as a football team since I went there as a very, very young human, and love Croatian people. And I've supported Croatia on the international scene forever. Then Davor Šuker came along, went to Real Madrid, and they had that classic white and purple kit. Don't know if you remember that. That is the story with Real Madrid, right? Los Blancos. That is my story with them. Chelsea, great story there. Gianfranco Zola, right? I actually used to love Man United when I was young because everyone else supported United. And then I saw Gianfranco Zola live. Thank you. That is all I need. That is all I need. Thank you very much. I am now a Chelsea fan. That was one of the most unbelievable things. First game I'd ever gone to in England. Incredible. Just incredible to see that guy live. I thought, oh my God, there's no ways a human being should be able to dribble other professionals like that. So that's the story with Chelsea. And then Inter Milan, listen, man, not probably, my favorite football player of all time. Tough to say athlete. It's tight between him and Tiger Woods. But El Trattore, Javier Zanetti, definitely the greatest right back of all time. In the conversation for me, top 10 greatest players of all time. World-class right back, world-class left back, holding mid, box-to-box mid, right mid, left mid, could play anywhere and be world-class. Michael Essien before Michael Essien, and better than Michael Essien because technically adept and could whip a ball. He could do everything. He really is the Argentine version, you might say, of Maldini, except he didn't play centre back. So that's the story why I support those scum teams. Those scum teams. Always about the player. Always loved the player, and then they took me to the club. All scum teams, Senzo Sitebe says. Incredible. Yeah, I could be a Man United fan. Much, much worse. Ndogozo Machozi says, Pollard also brings the physicality. His tactical kicking is quite good, and his on-ball decision-making skills were so much better than those of Elton's. Listen, Elton Jantjies, I'm afraid, has played himself out of a job. I had hope for Elton when the Lions were winning, but even then, they had to babysit him. You can't leave him on his own on defense. And I'm afraid that's not going to work. Because at Test Rugby, every man, to a man, we had the great Charlie Hodgson, right, who was the backup for Johnny Wilkinson for all those years. And he admitted on the show, he said, my weakness was defense. Johnny Wilkinson was impenetrable. And that's why Johnny was the first name on the team sheet, British Lions or England. Elton can't defend. So listen, Pollard, I'm not in. I'm not in on Pollard. But Pollard's perfect for SA Rugby, right? Morné Steyn, Pollard, really the same guy. Is keep the forwards going that way. As long as our forwards are going forward, you don't need to do much else. So you don't need Pollard to distribute. You don't need Pollard to actually manage a game. That's not his job. In SA Rugby, I still believe our number 8 and blindside will always be our most important players because of what we do, the way we play rugby. We play off the 9. That's why Pieter-Steph du Toit, I think he might be World Player of the Year again next year because he's going to get a lot of the ball and all the glory will go to him because it's all about work ethic there. So I'm not big on Pollard, but yeah, he is what he is. Modern day, I've always said it to friends, modern day Morné Steyn, a better, like Morné Steyn 2.0. Horses for courses, folks. Sometimes it's just horses for courses. And I agree with you, Ndogozo, but it is what it is. Jesse Randolph says, I won't lie, Chelsea's going to be strong. Whether they will catch up to the top 2, I don't know. I presume he's talking about next year. And I'd have to agree. Because remember, Chelsea could not strengthen this season, and they were still able to come tie third, by the way. That's what I'm going with on points with Manchester United. What do you do now? Because Werner, that's an upgraded striker straight away. Maybe two up front. Werner can play on the left even. Now you got Ziyech on the left, one of the best playmakers in Europe. And what's great about Ziyech is he can carry the ball as well. So much like Willian, very comfortable with the ball at his feet. It's a game changer. That's probably one thing Chelsea were missing. Mason Mount's great box to box, but he's more of an engine, more of a functional midfielder than somebody who'll do that piece of magic, that spin, that 360 spin, or a back heel in the box, or a little something special. Now you've got a problem for teams. Because Willian's right, he's up and down the wing. Terrific, but up and down the wing. Now you got Ziyech and you got to deal with Captain America. Because Pulisic now, after the break, has shown us that this guy's for real. And he's only 21. You know what's going to happen now in the offseason. He's really going to hit the gym because he's had 3 months off. There's no reason to worry about fatigue. He'll strengthen up again and come back stronger. Ziyech and Pulisic and Werner and Giroud, it's a problem. Mason Mount coming from midfield, a fully fit N'Golo Kante, and I think we've seen Kovacic's ability this season. Reece James will come on. It'll be interesting. They'll get rid of Jorginho, I believe, and then Chelsea, I think, will become a serious, serious threat. Top two, we'll talk about that another time because, as I've said, every team in the history of the Premier League has had 2 great seasons and then you flop. So the treble has only been won once. The three-peat's only been done twice, by Manchester United. I believe Liverpool have had their 2 league-winning seasons. Even though they've only won the league once, they've had 2 league-winning seasons in a row. Everybody thinks winning's easy. You see what happened to Pep. What happened? 2 seasons? Because it's grind. Talking about it in the cricket segment. Is everybody thinks winning's easy. It's not. It's corrosive because it's so demanding. Teammates are at each other. It's a heated environment. So in England, only the great United dynasties have done it twice. Otherwise, nobody else. It's always been twice, and then you got to refresh. Twice, refresh. Let's see what Jurgen Klopp does. I said I'd probably get rid of Mo Salah. I'd probably get rid of one of the functional guys, maybe Gini Wijnaldum. Freshen up. 2 seasons, freshen up. 2 seasons, freshen up. I think Chelsea are well placed to cause a surprise. I think City will be back on a different level. They'll drop £250 million. I think probably a little bit too much to ask of Chelsea to go and win the league this season. See what Lampard does in the transfer market, but I just think there's still too many holes. They've got to go work on left back and maybe another centre mid. Let's see how it goes. But definitely top 4 next season. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that. Vincent De Vet says, what's your opinion on Super Rugby split? Excellent. I think I may have answered this question in a different sort of format before, but it is excellent news. Brilliant, brilliant news that they got out of Super Rugby. The worst news is that they want to join the Northern Hemisphere. I don't get it. I don't get it. Fix the local game. Listen, people, the model's out there. I'm tired of saying this, but I'll say it again. NFL, Premier League. Stop worrying about the international version of the sport. Right? Garner and get a groundswell where you are. That's the model. I know for a fact people care more about the Premier League than they care about the Springboks, than Kaizer Chiefs. And people won't admit it because there's a thing in South Africa where, you think you're European, you think you're this. Stop it. Go and ask 10 of your friends that watch football. Ask them about Kaizer Chiefs, Pirates, Swallows, Sundowns, and see who they know more about. Then go and ask them about Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Arsenal, Bayern Munich. I'll tell you what, do an easy test. Go and ask all of your friends who watch football. Go and ask them to name Chiefs as 1 to 11. Go and ask them to name Pirates as 1 to 11, Sundowns as 1 to 11. Then go and ask them for the top 6 teams in England and ask them to name the 1 to 11. See which one's easier for your friends. So what you do is worry about the local product. The Premier League doesn't care about England and the FA and what they're doing. That's the whole reason the Premier League was started. Is get the product right locally. So for me, get Currie Cup back to what it used to be and make it even better. And then you know what you do? You play Currie Cup finals in America. You play Currie Cup finals at Twickenham. That's the showpiece you take on the road. And what you should be negotiating, for me, if I was Saru, and maybe they are, I don't know, what I would do is you play the local teams, right? Get that strong. The 2 teams that win the Currie Cup go and play the 2 teams that win Super Rugby in New Zealand in a Champions League tournament, and you bring the 2 European teams that represent them in the final, in the European Cup final. So Heineken Cup final winners, Currie Cup winners, New Zealand Ayatoro winners. Australia, I'm sorry, we can't have you in. You can't have children at the big people's table. Australia's over there at the plastic table, drinking with plastic cups, and you eating with your hands, and you got a bib on because you can't behave like adults. You're terrible. So you sit over there while the big kids play, or the adults eat, a little creme brulee as dessert. That's what we do. So for me, that's what I do. You get Europe's best 2, so it doesn't even need to be England. Europe's best 2, South Africa's best 2, New Zealand's best 2, Champions League tournament after you've concluded the local seasons. And then you know what you do? What's most important for me? Sell the rugby. Johan Rupert must own a team. Patrice Motsepe, you must own a team. Maybe, I don't know, multi-choice, Christo Visa and the boys. You buy a team. Right? The billionaires must own the teams, and they must have, like America, you have a commissioner. Like the English Premier League, you have somebody overseeing, a CEO that oversees corporate governance. So that we don't want to mess, right? We don't want a shootout in the West. The NFL, the NBA, perfection. Strong commissioner, Roger Goodell, Adam Silver. You don't let teams get away with malarkey. You protect the product. The NFL will always tell you this. Everything's about the shield. Protect the shield. And that is the commissioner's job. So whoever you get, his job is murder. You overpay him, but his job is murder. Because I'll tell you what his job is. His job is to fight the billionaires for the millionaires that are rugby players. And we know when money comes to rubber meets the road, billionaires always win. But it's the commissioner's job to link the players to the owners. Players need more money. That's you, commissioner. What are we going to do about that? How are we going to get more commercial value? Does the Currie Cup need its own channel? They call it an OTT solution, over-the-top solution. Should the Currie Cup have its own channel? Maybe not even be on SuperSport. Sell your own rights to the world. The NFL's got its own channel. But it'll never happen because it's run by bureaucrats. So for me, step 1, great. Get out of Super Rugby. It was dumb anyway. How many teams was it in there? Like 907. I mean, honestly, I think my Sunday League team was in there. There were so many teams. Useless. Pathetic. Get out of there. Now, next step. Currie Cup. Get it strong. Next step. Billionaires must buy rugby. The rest, that's history. So for me, terrific. Absolutely terrific to get out of Super Rugby. What we got next, Dave? Senzo Sitebe says, Sean Pollock was a Glenn McGrath that could bat. Let that sink in. Hey, man. Dave, could we maybe bring up those stats? Because I think this is a great point. Let's bring up those stats from the... that is just unbelievable. Pollock, of course, on 431. So he's just off that list. But you think of Pollock is on 431. You look at McGrath's numbers. Pollock was just as good. Just as good a bowler. I'll give you either way. You can argue either way. Probably the most economical bowler cricket's ever seen in Sean Pollock. Across the board, by the way. Test, it didn't matter. Incredible average. So it's not like he was bowling wide of people. His line and length was impeccable and never conceded runs. Listen, Sean Pollock averaged 32 with the bat. So hey, you want to let something sink in? Let that sink in. He averaged 32 runs with the bat. 32 runs with the bat. And I have it on good authority. His average was similar to JP Dumini's average. And then Sean Pollock it's not arguable. Top 10 best fast bowlers of all time. I don't think there's anyone who's going to debate that. Across every format. He's got to be. He's got to be. So, Senzo, I think a great point and probably one of the most underrated figures in cricket history. Because he was so quiet. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sean Pollock, absolute great. Absolute great. And I think he underachieved with the bat, by the way. I think Sean Pollock underachieved with the bat. He was a better batsman than he allowed himself to be. And that's maybe because he was busy being the best bowler in the world for like 5 years. It's probably why. Listen, I'll take it. 431 wickets and a 32 average. Incredible. Polly, Ginger Ninja, greatest. Is he the greatest South African bowler of all time? We'll have that argument another time. Dave, what we got? Cameron bankrupt. You said we'd get into the Windies loss. Tell us more. So, myself and Dave, our producer, huge cricket fan. Like, oh man, he loves cricket. And he's been having these arguments, and he loves the West Indies, by the way. I said, and there's a tweet out there where I said the Windies are going to lose a 3-day test match. I got a lot of pushback. A lot of people on Twitter, because this was after day one, by the way. This wasn't like 10 days later. This is in hindsight. I could see on day one that they were broken men. The West Indies are broken mentally. I think, that first test took so much out of them. And it was almost like the pressure had been building so much that they won, and the explosion of excitement meant they'd almost reached Mount Everest. Anything else was a bonus. And this is the difference between good and being good and being professional. Like, you can be talented, which the West Indies, there's no doubt about that. But true greatness, true professionalism, you got to pitch up every day at a certain level. You got to be metronomical. And that's boring. I've said it before. I think the Windies were embarrassing in both of the last tests, but this was especially embarrassing because it's not a talent thing. We've seen it now. We saw how good you can. It's an attitude thing. It's an application thing. What it tells you is they almost chose to lose. It's an attitude thing. Absolutely shambolic and embarrassing. And I think what you have to do is keep it in hindsight, or you have to look in hindsight. You have to keep it in perspective and say, maybe they're just not good enough right now for where they want to be. So what you can celebrate is, okay, the team structure is there, the foundation's there, Holder's clearly strong, Simmons is clearly the right coach. They're not going to put up with nonsense anymore. But then you got to say, what's the depth like? Their cricketers, are they playing competition? Are they playing strong competition in the 4-day format? They're not. What's strong in the West Indies T20 cricket? That's all they care about. They've just come out of the worst sort of, the Windies have been eroding for the last 30 years in terms of a culture. And I heard a great saying, by the way, I think it was yesterday, about culture. Is culture you have to keep an eye on every day. Culture you have to keep an eye on every day. It's not something that gets built like that. Right? And this one person said it's like watering a garden. If you go into your gardens at home, you'll see there's high spots and you'll see dry grass. It's watering there, and the water can't get there naturally. So poor culture will go, much like water, to the path of least resistance. And that's what's happened with the Windies. And you cannot allow bad culture to set in for 3 decades, which has happened, I'm afraid, and then expect to be good. So Holder is trying to turn around the Titanic. So celebrate on one hand. You've got a captain, a coach. Great. They're going to keep an eye on the culture. You've got 1 or 2 talents. Maybe with the Windies, we say we need to give them a 4-year window. It's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down for 3-4 years. And in 4 years, you'll see the reward of what they're building now. Because listen, let me give you a juxtaposition. The great Australian teams compounded on the last. So for those of you in economics, you understand how it works. You want to make a lot of money? Compound interest. You would really want to kill it. You want to compound on compound interest. That's a very basic 101 economics lesson. So the Australians, what they did, listen to this. Border. He made Dean Jones bat. And Dean Jones, I think, lost 11 kilograms while he was batting. This is the type of culture you're dealing with. And he said to Dean Jones was feeling sick. He said, if you care about your country, you'll bat through this. Dean Jones lost something like 11 kilograms. That's what you were dealing with there. That's the culture. Is if you play for Australia, it's life and death. That's a culture. That's embedded. Dean Jones went on to make one of the most lauded hundreds in the history of cricket in that innings. This is a real story, people. Right, you go from that. Mark Taylor, well, one of the hard-nail cricketer, right? Tough opener. And he did not take nonsense. He did not take nonsense. You go from him to the greatest batsman of all time in Ricky Ponting. Compound. Culture. Winning's not for Australian cricket. Winning's not an option. It's the only thing. There's many countries where you say winning's not everything. The Australians tell you, yeah, you're dead right. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. That's a culture. And you keep an eye on that every day. Bad culture will go like water. It'll go the path of least resistance. You must resist bad culture. 3 decades, Windies, you're what you deserve. Absolutely horrific as a performance. But they fell apart. They fell apart, folks. Zero Rover says, allowing a Rakeem Cornwall to play shows how seriously you're taking things. You have to demand higher standards than that, regardless of talent. Zero Rover, you are opening up a can of worms here. Zero Rover, let me tell you something. You are opening up a can of worms. I've always said it makes no sense to me. And I won't even look to Cornwall. I mean, that to me, I sent some WhatsApps out when I saw the size of the man. It's embarrassing. He wouldn't play if I was the coach in a university team. I'm afraid it's non-negotiable. Stop telling me about talent. There's lots of talented people in the world. If you're a sportsman, for me, because I take the time and I'm happy to say I'm in great shape. I'm not in good shape. I'm in great shape. By any standards, by any international standards. You could take me to any facility in the world, get me tested right now. They would say I'm at the very worst, elite fitness. At the very worst. I'm as fit as anybody you'll ever meet. I'm in the 1 percentile top fitness people in the world, and I'm happy to say it. I won't apologize for that. Right? I'm not a sportsman. So it's not my job to be fit. Why am I fitter than I was at 80% of South Africa's cricket team and a good deal of West Indies cricket team? Doesn't make sense to me. I've always said, if you're overweight, you shouldn't get to play. It is a disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace. Call me a body shamer. Call me whatever you'll call me. This isn't about looking good for a men's health cover. Sport is purely functional. You're there to do your job. And non-negotiable in your contract. It's almost like getting a cell phone contract, but I can't call anybody. What are we doing here? Part of the contract is that I have call time, right? Whether it's 100 minutes or whatever. And telling me it doesn't work. No, that's not the contract. Part of being a sportsman is being fit. It should be non-negotiable. There are people that... Listen, I had to criticize an alumni of mine. Right? He's just come back. Well, I think he'll be our next Kagiso Rabada. But Hangiti, you're overweight, dude. Petlogwayo, disgusting, revolting to me. Revolting. I'm unapologetic about weight in sport. Revolting to me. Cornwall should be a non-starter. Cornwall should not be allowed near a field. He shouldn't be allowed near a tea field. Forget a cricket field. Absolutely disgusting that he's in the team. Absolutely disgusting. So, Zero Rover, because that is such a sensitive thing for me. Put your feet aside, folks. It's functional. It's your job. And it's not asking a lot. It's not like you're a single mom with 2 kids. I can handle it if you're carrying a couple of extra pounds and you're a single mom with 2 kids and you got to walk them around every weekend and you got to, well, you know what I mean? I'm not asking you to be in elite shape then. But it's your... what is Cornwall doing on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. when he is not playing cricket? I know the answer. It's eating. But why isn't he exercising? Why isn't he exercising? So for me, folks, I'm afraid it's non-negotiable to me. There's nothing you can ever convince me about talent. And maybe we can do it another time. But we've had far too many fat cricketers in South African cricket. And Cornwall's just another part of the problem. Let me know what you think, folks. Am I too harsh? I mean, I'm not going to change my mind, but am I too harsh? Should talent trump your physique? Because people might say Jacques Kallis was overweight. Right? Graham Smith was overweight. Mark Boucher was overweight. And there's a great saying in sport. When I was playing serious sport when I was younger, a coach of mine always used to say to me, be who you can afford to be. Be who you can afford to be. And what it's called is production versus tolerance. Right? No team will ever tolerate more than you produce. No team will ever tolerate more than you can produce. Those are my thoughts on Cornwall, and the Windies are horrendous. So I just want to finish off on that Windies thing. If they want to work on the culture, start there. Fitness must be a non-negotiable. Senzo Sitebe says, let's talk NBA. Are you excited, number one? 2, do you think the momentum lies with us now? Number 3, Lakers till I die. Let me start off with the last one. I'm not a Lakers guy. I'm a LeBron James guy. Wherever I'm Team LeBron. So wherever LeBron goes, just assume I support that team now. Dan Gilbert, you suck. Get out of here. Cleveland, hope you. I don't care if it burns down there. Hey, we've got J.R. Smith back. J.R. Smith is back in the mix. Worried about the loss of Rondo. I kind of like Rondo because he's got a better edge. And he's played playoff basketball. That experience is crucial. We understand. We've seen guys fall apart before, and we saw what happened to J.R. Smith 2 seasons ago. But yeah, are we excited? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. If you don't like the NBA, there's something wrong with you. It is such a cool sport. These athletes are off the charts. Are we excited? Yes. By the way, if you haven't heard, Lou Williams decided, I'm going to go to a strip club, right, where there's wings named after Sweet Lou. He plays for the Clippers. Big problem. Now he's got a quarantine. He's going to miss a couple of games. People are not happy. He went to, I think, a funeral, and then he decided, let me stop off. Of course, with COVID regulations, is they'll allow you to go to a funeral, but they're geo-tracking you. And it turns out he made a little pit stop in Sin City there, and he went and got himself some wings at Magic City. Trouble. Am I excited? Absolutely. Is LeBron going to win? Absolutely. Because I think, and my one concern before was that AD wouldn't get through the season because of injuries. Now it's LeBron. Hey, listen, LeBron's always going to be in shape. LeBron's not Cornwall. LeBron's always going to be the best in shape athlete, top 2, top 3 in shape athletes in the world at all times. LeBron James. So, and then Anthony Davis. Listen, AD's problem's always been postseason, right? He's a Hall of Fame player, but he's been unable to get there in terms of his physique. But now he's had that COVID period off. Now you got both double threat. Double threat. And then you got Superman, who's looking good. He's looking good those last few games. Dwight Howard looked good. So are we excited? Yes. Are the Lakers going to win? I believe they are, because I think the Clippers, I don't think they're liking that bubble situation in Orlando. Maybe sleeping in Minnie Mouse's bed isn't for Kawhi Leonard. Who knows? Who knows? NBA, am I excited? Are you kidding me? Let's go. When is the NBA? It starts on Thursday, I think it starts. Absolutely cannot wait. Shimi Murakure says, what are your thoughts on Mike Tyson getting back into the ring? So let me give you an anecdote before I get into this. I've got a rule in life. If you break up with a girl or a guy, never get back with them again. Never ever go back. Never ever go back. And I know people say, what do you know? Let me tell you something. I've made this mistake twice in my life before. It's never the same the second time. Because the reason you broke up will always exist. I know people say be mature and people grow malarkey. Stop it. This isn't Thailand on a yoga course. This is real life. Never get back with a past relation if you break up. The reason you left, the reason they left will always exist. It's never as good the second time. Mike Tyson and the man I think is the greatest boxer of all time, Roy Jones Jr., getting back together. It's so sad. People ask me, so listen, my family's huge on boxing. It's a Xhosa, Xhosa people, rugby, boxing. My uncle sent me a message and he said, am I seeing this nonsense? And so I'm not going to watch it. What I think is, why? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the showmanship. By the way, if you haven't seen Hot Boxing with Mike, his podcast is awesome. He's married now. He's got kids. Maybe it's because the kids are leaving home. They're getting a little bit older. I know his one daughter's at Harvard, believe it or not. I don't understand why. What do I think of it? I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute joke. And listen, unless I saw they're getting big money for the thing, I hope they're getting $20 million each. So I'm never going to hate on men getting money, but as a sports fan, it's sad. It's sad, and I don't want to see it. And the worst part, by the way, is it's an exhibition fight. So if you're not into boxing, understand this. They will wear headgear, and essentially it'll be like easy sparring at their level. There's no knockouts. There's none of that. Sad. Mike Tyson's sad. Never loved Mike Tyson as a boxer, to be clear, by the way. Never. I don't think Mike Tyson is an all-time great boxer. So Roy Jones Jr. is, though. But Mike Tyson's not a great boxer. I don't know what to tell you. Don't get excited. Don't get excited by the flash. I can name 10 heavyweights right now that are better than Mike Tyson in history. But listen, there's never been anything quite as explosive and dangerous and angry as Mike Tyson between those four corners. So he was, box office. Love Mike Tyson. Don't think he was one of the greatest. Vincent DeVette says, people talk about Wasim as one of the greatest of all time, but stats don't put him on this list. What does that say about your stats versus perceived greatness? I think it's asinine to think Wasim Akram isn't one of the greatest bowlers of all time. So, like I said, once you get to Harvard, it becomes more stringent what we judge you on. In baseball, there's a term called command, right, for pitches. By the way, huge baseball fan. For pitchers, there's something called command. It is your ability to control the baseball with all of the different pitches. So one of the toughest things really is to throw near the 100-mile mark, so 160 kilometer mark in baseball, and be able to control it often. Wasim Akram was like the best pitches you've got. He could swing it both ways, and he could pitch it wherever he wanted. Right? Wasim's great downfall is, in his time, they played a lot of cricket at home. Anybody who knows anything about subcontinent pitches, not going to help. But no, that's asinine. That's absolutely ridiculous. Wasim Akram's top 10 greatest fast bowlers of all time, and it's not close. Listen, there's a great dismissal of when he gets Jacques Kallis out. Now, anybody who's ever watched cricket, it's almost impossible for left-handers to come around the wicket, right, purely because of physics, and get the ball to straighten while not running on the pitch. Because what you need to do is come close to the wicket, be close enough to the wicket, right, in order to get that away shape, that away curve. If you're wide of the wicket, naturally you're going to get the in curve. Even if you swing it out the hand for a ball with angle to move away from the right hand. There's a dismissal where he gets Jacques Kallis out, which I will never forget. And that was a man at the peak of his powers. Very few people could do what he could do. In swing, out swing, Yorker. He had the whole range. Wasim Akram, one of the greatest, top 10. It's asinine and ridiculous. In terms of stats versus just being on the list, I think it's important. Stats are important, like we just saw with Stuart Broad. They get you into the conversation. But then, okay, let's look at the other stuff. Where did you take your wickets? How important were they? How many of them were in winning situations? Wasim Akram's got over 400 wickets? And he played most of his cricket in Pakistan? Are you kidding me? No. Ridiculous. Anybody who doesn't think Wasim Akram is the top 10 best fast bowler of all time, you are kidding yourself. Craven Moorhead. Do you think the Springboks have a realistic chance of being prepared enough to join the Rugby Championship in New Zealand this year? Craven, I think it's not the goal this year, right? This year's not the goal. It's all about the Lions. I think Rassie might try some B and C team options. Rassie's already shown. Yes, I know Ninab is the new coach, but Rassie's the coach. I think they'll try new options. So for me, you already know what the bad boys can do. You already know what Du Plessis can do. You already know what Sia can do. You already know what these guys can do. So bring in Noches. Let's put these guys under pressure. Let's imbibe them into the Bok culture, because we've got the end of the year as well, whether we want to play home test matches or away test matches. So let's not panic too much. I think, for me, I really wouldn't care about the New Zealand result. Do I think they'll be ready? No chance. No chance. But if anyone's going to get you ready and turn it around quickly, it's Rassie Erasmus, right? He's already shown that he needed, 16 months to turn around and win a World Cup from being 7th in the world, losing to Italy. That's what they were doing. So no, to answer your question, I don't think they'll be ready. I think it'll be, but I also don't think Rassie will play the first team, because I don't think he has to. And I think Rassie's smart enough to know that I'm going to save all of my, because essentially what happens is you also don't want to show the All Blacks what you may have been working on as well, because you got to evolve, right? Sorry, the British Lions, what you've been working on, because they might think Rassie will go all what do they call it, Skop and Donner again, which is how we won the World Cup. We might go Skop and Donner again. Maybe Rassie's going to mix it up. You never know. Maybe Rassie's going to change it from a 9-8-15 game, right? He may say we're going to play off our 12. He may say we're going to Dialende is now the main man, and he's first receiver all the time. He might mix it up. He might say, Sikhumbuzo Noche, I want the dynamism, and then Dwayne, you come off the bench to finish things off. We don't know what Rassie's got. He's shown that he's innovative. So let's try the new lads. Do I think there'll be really no chance? What we got, Dave? No chance. Senzo Seteba says, what do you think of the proposed 100 million rand takeover of the Stormers by an American consortium? I saw the article, and I haven't really looked into them yet, but I love it. I love it. And I'll tell you why I love it. Nobody turns things into, it's really a product. So to everybody at home, and I know in South Africa we're so romantic about it, and yeah, we're on a ultimate dual rugby, but no, sport is a product now. And what's great for me is I always go with the players, is they realize their careers are shorter, so get paid, guys. Number one, rugby players. Guys that go overseas, I used to be angry at them because I had my Springbok heart on and play for the Lions and Oaks must stay here, but go get paid. American consortium, I tell you what they do, is they come here and they're like, oh my goodness, this rugby thing, that can be exciting. Currie Cup, we fill stadiums, and then they see, because we're different here. When we back our teams, everybody remembers, when Currie Cup was good, man, you didn't have to be the biggest rugby fan. When the Lions were good, you were willing to go to Hillbrow to go and watch rugby every now and then. Tell me I'm lying. The Americans are going to come here. They're going to go, oh, plus these guys are amateurs. They don't know what we're doing. We could introduce a whole new world here. Hey, maybe, who knows? You know how the Americans are. They'll say, hey, why don't we play a game of American football here? But I'd say it sounds ridiculous, but Tottenham Hotspur Stadium right now, right, is they retract the football stadium underneath as an NFL ground. So I think it's awesome. Americans are awesome at taking very rudimentary things and turning them into a product. And they do pageantry so well. So I love it, Senzo. And my God, could you imagine Americans selling Cape Town? Hand in glove. It's a perfect fit. I hope they get it. And maybe, who knows, 2-3 years, another American consortium says, all right, Johannesburg, we sell it as the New York of Africa. Let's go. Then we're playing the Currie Cup final where? Giant Stadium. We're in New York for the Currie Cup final, right? We're at Dallas Stadium. We're at Cowboy Stadium. Jerry Jones, you know how he does it. If you haven't seen, by the way, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, they've got the biggest, I don't know if it's still the biggest Jumbotron in the world. Cowboy Stadium. After this show, go and check that out. Jerry Jones, my favorite. One of my favorites. Hate the Cowboys, love Jerry. Hate the Cowboys, love Jerry. Shimi Muraguri says, Chelsea's problems lie in their back five. If they don't strengthen that defense and replace short arms, Kepa Arisa Balaga. Those okay. If they don't replace the short armed Kepa Arisa Balaga, that's a good. Yeah, those attacking additions essentially become useless, right? Is what Shimi's saying. So here's my thing. I think we saw it with Liverpool in the beginning. Is he didn't replace everybody. And for me, I'm not that unhappy with the back five. Where I think the problem is they haven't had a shield all season. So you can't have Jorginho as the guy. So I'll tell you what happens when you bring in attacking quality. And you saw this with Liverpool. It changed everything when they got Mane, Firmino, and Salah all together in one season. Is then you become a possession team. And the reason why I like Chelsea's back three is they're all ball players. So what happens then is Zuma's defending less. Rudiger's defending less. Christensen's defending less. All they're doing is recycling the ball. Virgil van Dijk, I think you've seen the season when you put Virgil van Dijk under one-on-one pressure, even before they'd won the league, it was like, what's going on there? But you never saw it enough times. So Chelsea now, once you bring Ziyech into the team, right? You bring Havertz into the team, it becomes a possession team now. I expect most of Chelsea's games, they'll start to look more like a Man City, more like a Liverpool than they will the counter-attacking team they were this season. You get rid of Jorginho and you have somebody next to Conte in there who's athletic. So maybe instead of Jorginho, now you've got Conte and you've got Kovacic. So you've got legs in that midfield screening the back four. Left back's a problem. Left back's a huge problem. Keeper was a problem. You can't have a keeper who's conceded 8% of Chelsea's goals in the history of the league. It's almost, when you say it out loud, it sounds unreal. It sounds unreal. So I think the back five, I think it's overstated. I think the problems lay more in the defensive midfielder and the goalkeeper. And what I love about Zuma, by the way, people say he's mistake prone. I'll take the mistakes, much like Rio Ferdinand. A lot of people forget. Rio Ferdinand, I've always said, not a great, because he had Nemanja Vidic next to him. He had Nemanja Vidic next to him, and he was very, very lucky. And then what happened when Vidic faded? You're like, oh, wow, this guy's a mistake machine. But what did Rio have? The athleticism to cover for it. The great thing about Zuma is he can cover for his mistakes, but he's a tremendous ball player. So much like Virgil van Dijk, I want Zuma to be molded into that, is that athleticism. And then you can leave Zuma alone at the back because he doesn't need to do technical defending once you're a possession team. Ziyech, Havertz, and then you've also got Captain America on the left there. Pulisic. Chelsea will be a front foot team now. Kovacic, great in possession. Mason Mount, great in possession. Reece James, great in possession. I expect Chelsea to go from probably, what were they, 48, 49% team this year? I think they're going to jump into the low 50s, 52, 53. And that's a game changer because everybody's playing higher. Zuma's defending less. The left, they're going to have to fix. Alonso, maybe keep him as the backup. The left, they're going to have to fix. But on the right, I'm happy. Azpilicueta's going to be the backup. The keeper was, oh my goodness. Like all of my previous romantic relationships, the keeper was a disaster. An absolute disaster. There is no running away from that. There is no running away from that. Craven Moorhead says, what do you think of Super Rugby format when New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa each play out of a domestic comp, then the top two from each domestic comp plays a championship format? Craven, I'll tell you what I've got a problem with there. I'm not sure if you're just joining now or that question may have come in before I said what I said. What's the commercial value to having Australia in? So let's stop thinking about the romantic notion of the past. They don't bring a high-quality rugby team, so the product, they're not adding to the product. And quite frankly, it's the 8th, 9th sport in Australia? Rugby union. So what's the point of having Australia? Honestly speaking, I would rather have the European teams and an American team. I might even say the US national team. Because it's about expanding the product. Don't shrink it again. Going back to old ways and hoping for different results, Einstein said it was insanity. So I think it would be a bad idea because, quite frankly, Australia and New Zealand also, they're not the biggest sports markets. Right? They're not let's face it. I know everybody loves the All Blacks. But who in America knows who the All Blacks are? I hate to say it. Rugby's a local game. So stop. I think we must stop thinking of let's go back to old comforts. Let's open it up. Let's go to the Americans. Let's go to the Chinese. Let's go to the Japanese. Let's open it up and let's not worry about closing up. And Australia have no commercial value for me. I could not care what happens to Australian rugby. They have no commercial value. They don't bring quality. What are they adding? It's like having that one friend around who isn't particularly educated, isn't funny. What value is he bringing to the braai? You're not going to invite him. You know what I mean? What value is Australian rugby bringing? Let's get away from it just being sport, guys. It's a commodity. It's a product. Where are the markets? We all know. Europe, China, America. Let's take our rugby there. Australia, get in the rubbish bin. Oh my God, how bad are Australia at rugby right now? That's because they had a goth as the CEO at a stage. Nothing against goths, but I don't want them as my CEO. All right, guys, we're going to have one more question, and for today, that'll be it. Thank you so much for these great questions. Dave, what you got for me? Senzo Sitebe says, realistically speaking, do you think the Olympics are going to happen next year? Wow, that's really putting my feet to the fire. Realistically speaking, I think no. Realistically speaking, I think no. I think it's too complicated to put something like that on in a country that small. If we were doing it in America, right? So remember, America has, I think they're building a third one. I stand to be corrected. But I know I've been to 2 of the Olympic villages, right? I've never been to Los Angeles. I know there's one out there, but there's one kind of just outside New York that I've been to. But then there's a jumbo one in Colorado, by the way. It is insane. Go and check that out online if you haven't seen it. Oh, my gracious. Just something out of this world. If we were doing it in America, perhaps, because maybe you say to yourself, all right, we split the athletes up. Some of them go here, Salt Lake. You know, we've got the facilities. In Japan, how many places are there to put 80 countries? Where do you put? There's just no space to be flexible. What if there's an outbreak in one Olympic village? What, you cancel the whole Olympics? Because much like Adam Silver of the NBA said, is with something like the Olympics, folks, one thing you have to realize, this isn't the NBA where it's 12 guys a team and you can kind of just shut it down and you put them all in a hotel. We're talking 50, 60, 70,000 athletes and admin teams. That's not something you don't just close up your bag and go home. If the Olympics start, they must finish. No matter what COVID outbreak, no matter what. How do you do that in Japan? It's just too small of a country. It's where they're going to have enough time to build another 3 Olympic villages. I said this to a friend 2 days ago. After, if you didn't see, last week we had Jens Littorin, who's covered 10 Olympics, by the way, winter and summer combined. One of the greatest journalists Sweden's ever had. He's on the fence still, and he's not feeling great about it. But after he saw that episode, a friend of mine sent me a text, and he said, "What do I think about the Olympics?" I said, "Move it now. Take it to America now. Tell Japan that, listen, we'll do a little rebate for you, whatever it's cost you. Let's pay it off over 15 years or whatever. That's the IOC's problem with Japan. But move it to America now, because America can host it. America can very easily host the Olympics like that. It is the one country that is ready now. And not just because I'm pro-America or whatever. They've got 2 things in their favor. Size and multiple Olympic spots that have already hosted the Olympics in the past, by the way. So they can do, let's say America does 6 bubbles. Like that. People can go live it. I mean, you look at the NFL. 32 teams. You can go and bubble at the stadiums, train at the stadiums. If you're one country, split it up. They've got baseball stadiums. They've got great soccer stadiums. I said, move the Olympics, not in 2 months. Move it now. Get America ready now that, hey, guys, listen, next year, we're landing. Donald Trump, let's get on it. Because Trump understands the Olympics is, what, $2 trillion industry that'll bring to America? Move the Olympics now to America. Then it'll happen. Do I think it's going to happen in Japan? I give it 0% chance. You can always cancel your flights if you're already going there. Hate to be the harbinger of bad news. Breaks my heart as much as it breaks yours. Senzo, I'm sorry, brother. No Olympics. I'd almost write it off now. Purely because of Japan's size, by the way. There's no other reason. No other reason. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a different ballgame for today. And thank you very much. Great questions, by the way. Great questions. Vodie's back tomorrow. She will pick, of course, I'm not sure where she is in your team. Is it her fly half? Maybe scrum half? But Vodie is picking the greatest Springbok team to have ever played in the history of World Cups and won, of course. So she's picking her favorite 3 from every position. Really, really looking forward to that and hearing more from Vodie tomorrow. But for today, ladies and gentlemen, sad about the Windies. Happy that I had a great day, by the way. I had maybe the professional day of my life today. I had a meeting with somebody who I never thought I'd ever get to speak to. quite incredible day for me on a personal level. To all of you at home, whatever's going on, I hope you can keep your chin up, keep trucking, ladies and gentlemen. For today, it has been a different ballgame.